It's your boy Neal back with another reaction video, guys. Here we are with NBA legends and players share what is the best era in NBA history. Y'all already know my answer. I'm gonna say the current era. I did not watch any other eras, so I probably started watching basketball around 2002, 2003, and so on. And so, no, I didn't watch the 80s. I didn't watch the 90s. I didn't watch the 70s. I didn't watch the 60s. I didn't watch none of them eras. And so the current era has to be the best era for me because it's the only era that I watched. And I absolutely love basketball. But make sure you tell me what your favorite era is. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell, give a video a thumbs up so it gets suggested. Social media, Patreon, all up top. You want to subscribe to any of it, put all the links in the description. All you got to do is hit the link, follow me, talk to me. I love talking to you guys. I'm human. I talk back. If you got a favorite video suggestion, subscribe to Patreon and drop it in the comment section. What we got?
Hey man, it's your boy YG, aka Young Gala, and I found this exciting segment of NBA legends and players talking about what is the best era in NBA history. And this question can get subjective because if you ask NBA fans, they will say the decade they grew up in most of the time. And you can say the same thing with players.
If you ask NBA fans, they're gonna say the decade they grew up in most of the time. That's what's gonna happen. Because
if you ask NBA fans, they will say the decade they grew up in most of the time. And you can say the same thing with players too, because they will say their time when they played was the best era. But I want to see if this group of legends and players have different opinions. So before we get straight into the video, tell me what is your favorite era in NBA history. And make sure you like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for the culture so you won't be missing any of my videos.
Yeah.
Let's get to the video, man.
What's the best era in the NBA? You go first.
Oh, I think we all would like to be playing now.
Dollars aside.
Well, no dollars. I mean, just the style and the pace of the game. I mean, it's a guard's game. And, you know, the big man can't hit you. You can go to the basket anytime you want to. Somebody touch you. You can get to the foul line, you know, 10 to 15 times a night. I mean, it's easier to score. I mean, for me as a point guard, I would love to play in this era. Now, I think the toughest era, just looking at it, is the 80s. I mean, when you look at, the two teams that, we argue and say are the two best ever, Boston's 86 team is, arguably the best team to ever play, in the NBA. And then that Laker 87 team, some people have that in the top, 3 to 4, so I think in that era with Dr. J, Kareem, Magic, Bird, some of the 50 greatest players, a lot of them are in that era.
I would agree. Men played in the 80s. Like, it was, you're 28, 29, you were hitting your career figuring it out. We're here, you're 21, 22, different type of player. This is the most fun era to watch.
What's the best?
And easiest. Oh, the 80s. 80s is the best.
The toughest and best.
Toughest and best. Easiest and most fun to watch is now. I think that guys who are stars would be average players in the 80s.
Ooh.
There's a lot of stars that would be average players.
I need you to name something up. Kenny, I need you to name something up, my guy. I'm gonna need you to name some of these. So we talking about superstar caliber players today? Or are we just talking about like even all-star caliber? I need names. I'd be intrigued. What do y'all think? What stars do y'all think today would be average in the 80s?
There's a lot of stars that would be average players in the 80s because their skill set doesn't allow them to do anything but one thing.
You don't mean superstars, you're saying next level down, stars.
Superstars.
There are superstars now who would be average players in the 80s.
I want names, Kenny. I want names.
Yeah. I mean,
Steve. Me too, Steve. I want that because Kenny. Hey, Kenny, you talking a little while. I gotta get right on my seat for this. Kenny, you gonna give us names or not?
Stars now who would be average players in the 80s.
I want names, Kenny. I want names.
Yeah. I mean, okay.
I would say stars. I don't know about superstars.
I would say this because Charles and I always have a thing where we talk about to be a superstar, you have to contribute to the game 5 different ways. Superstars today, they don't have to. They only have to contribute 3, scoring, rebounds, assists. But leadership and controlling the tempo of the game and the 6 would be defense. So most superstars in our era, Isaiah Thomas, Magic, they led it in 5 categories. Magic, control the tempo of the game, the scoring, assists, rebounding, leadership. Boom, that was automatic. You can't do that with today's superstars. There's maybe 2 or 3 guys that, LeBron would be one, Kobe would be another, and my list I would start really searching on my list that could do those 5 things, and maybe
Back
those
in the
6.
80s. Wow, okay.
And
What do you think?
But he said average, Kenny. Average? Like Kevin Durant will be average? Like a 7-foot guy who can score from anywhere on the court? Who can dribble like a guard? Who you talking about? I don't know. I don't know about. I understand his position on defense and all that. I would say it's much harder to play defense today because you're not allowing players to hand check. You can go do the double teams early on. You can, know what I'm saying? You got the defensive 3 seconds. And so now it's harder. It's easier to score for sure. Big time. Harder on defensive players because you can't do all of those things. Like the offensive player, it seems like gets more of the rules for him. And so when you say on defense, it's like it's harder to play defense in this era. And then you got these offensive players that are absolutely crazy, and not only are their skills absolutely insane, but now you got all these calls being made for them or these rules being made for them because people want to see offense. Like that's what sells. That's why the rules in the NBA is leaning this way. But and so it is harder to play defense. But I don't know. I don't know if you can call superstars average in another era.
Those 5 things, and maybe
Back
those
in the
6.
80s. Wow, okay.
And
What do you think?
You don't think Kevin Durant would be a superstar
Talk
player
to me.
back then?
The list starts to. You see how you didn't go? If you would have went to me and said, "Hey, what about Kevin Durant? What about blah blah blah? What about blah blah blah?" And I would have been like, maybe I was wrong. But you stop short with one guy. The list just dwindles. But when you say the superstars of the 80s, you go.
Well, that's why we telling you to give us names. Kenny, name who wouldn't be a superstar. Kenny, or name a superstar that would be average. That's you made you got to give us some names. You can't. That's just a blanket statement, man.
Short with one guy.
Yeah,
the list just dwindles. But when you say the superstars of the 80s, you go Malone, Kevin McHale, you go Bird, you go. These guys did so many different things because now I think the money. People get paid, and people think that they're great because they get paid. No, they get paid because they contribute to that team, that valuable to that team. Doesn't mean they're a superstar because you get $90 million. That's all I'm saying.
Is there any part of any of you that says, "I'd like to"?
Well, $90 million ain't superstar money. Hey, superstars ain't unless you're like early on in your first contract. $90 million is not superstar. We ain't calling no players that getting paid $90 million superstars. But this was, I don't know, when this interview was probably a little back then, so maybe, depending on when the interview was, maybe 90 million, superstars were getting paid 90 million. Maybe I'm wrong on that. My bad. Maybe, okay. I don't know when the interview took, or when he said this, what year this was, so they probably, superstars might have been getting 90 million at this time.
That team, that valuable to that team, doesn't mean they're a superstar because you get $90 million. That's all I'm saying.
Is there any part of any of you that says, "Boy, I'd like to have been playing back in the black and white film days"?
No.
Well, to see those guys coming down court dribbling like that, I would love to play like that. What? Joe only got one arm. He can't go left, and Joe going left like this. And when he shoots, like this. He shoots, he goes, hold it. I would love that.
But I think there are some players in the 80s that couldn't play in this era. And I think it's because of the rules. The rules,
exactly.
You can take some players in this era and bring them into the 80s and they still would have success, and then some of them wouldn't. And I think you can take, like a perfect example like Robert Parrish, a center like Parrish or Sigma, I don't know if they could play in this era. And then you say, would Magic Johnson be a point guard in this era, or would Magic Johnson probably be a center in this era? You know, Magic Johnson probably wouldn't be running the point, playing high pick and roll.
And you know what would have happened? That coach would have been fired.
No, but I'm just saying.
If
like,
he couldn't recognize that Magic Johnson.
No, but think about it. No. Let's think about it. Like, seriously, right? In this era, right? So Magic Johnson guarding Westbrook, Paul, you know, all the guards, you know, Derrick Rose, so forth and so on.
He would have guarded the small forward.
Yeah.
He would have had
he
the small
would have
forward.
played point guard.
Right.
Okay, now
LeBron.
if you play him at the point guard, okay, what type of offense are you running? Are you playing high pick and roll the way they play it now?
Yes.
I mean, would you play high pick and roll with Magic Johnson? Probably not.
No.
Okay, now this is a league now that demands that you have to play high pick and roll. So if you're not going to play him at the point where he can play high pick and roll, where do you play him at?
So you're saying more to me than it's worse. The coaching is better or different, more than the player.
The coaching and the rules are different. You know, it's just different rules. So some players in all 80s era would be different in this era. They would have to play totally different.
Well, isn't there the idea, Kenny, that throughout...
I think they could. I think Magic could play because LeBron plays point guard, and I feel like LeBron is just a better version of a Magic Johnson, and that's no disrespect to Magic because I feel like LeBron is the best player of all time. So it's no disrespect to Magic Johnson at all in saying that. Magic Johnson is incredible, and I think Magic Johnson could have played point guard in today's NBA. I think he could have got used to doing the high pick and roll, but I think he's special in the fact that he also would be able to play out of the post, and I feel like he could do different things because of his size and because of his skills. His shooting wasn't the best. Dang. It is hard to have. I'm hoping that his shooting would improve if he played in this era. I guess I would have to look at his field goal percentage and where his shots were coming from. Because in a high pick and roll, I feel like you need to be some kind of threat shooting it. But Magic Johnson could play point guard in today's era. I don't have a doubt about that.
Era, they would have to play totally different.
Well, isn't there the idea, Kenny, that throughout your athletic endeavors that there's adaptability? You have to play to the conditions that you're given. So to say that players who are great today wouldn't have adapted because they have this incredible ability to play the game, wouldn't adapt to how the game is coached and how much they train and all those sort of things. There is adaptability. I mean, so we're all still evolving, and back then.
Well, that goes back on what Kenny said too. Then players today, the adaptability is a thing that they would have on their side too. They would be able to adapt to the rules that were back in the 80s and adapt to the way it's played. So you could say that for either way.
There is adaptability. I mean,
so
we're all still evolving, and back then, wouldn't they find a way? The greatest players and athletes would find a way. Personally, I believe, to be great. It's great to go back and talk about those eras, but I just feel like every generation has great players. They're great for a reason, and if you put them in those same conditions back then, they'd find a way to get there again.
No, I think Magic would be great, but I don't think he would. In this era, I think we would be talking about Magic Johnson, probably one of the greatest centers to ever play the game.
I think he still can play point, Isaiah.
I don't
know. No way he would be able to guard
because
these guys
even
out
back.
But he guarded. What about you?
He didn't guard
that's why we went to the finals. That's why we went. He couldn't guard us. But I'm
he didn't
just
guard
saying,
you guys back then. He put Michael Cooper on basically all.
And so that's what I'm saying. So at the point guard position today,
he put Cooper on him.
Okay, but would he be?
No, it's not just point. I don't agree with Isaiah on this because it's not today. Point guards don't guard point guards. Your best defensive player is guarding the best offensive player. No matter what position, unless it's like your best offensive player is a center, your best defensive player is a guard. Other than that, your best defensive player is your best defensive player could be small forward. He's guarding a point guard who's way smaller than him to put size on. I'm seeing Aaron Gordon guard Damian Lillard, starting power forward guarding the starting point guard. So you're putting your best defensive players on your best offensive player. So Magic would not have had to guard these point guards. He could have guarded other positions.
So at the point guard position today,
He put Cooper.
being that size, 6'9", he can guard almost every position. Well, I guess he could guard point guards is what they're saying.
Basically all.
and so that's what I'm saying. So at the
Other
point guard
positions.
position today,
He put Cooper on him.
okay, but would he be able to play high screen and roll?
I'd say yes.
And I would say, I would think in this game today, the way it's coached and the way the centers are at 6'8", 6'9", Magic Johnson now would revolutionize the center position and be something totally different that we've never seen before, other than the point guard position that he revolutionized. So at the point guard position, he was the standard. And I think in this era, he would be the standard at the center position, not the point guard position.
I feel like it's more positionless, if anything. So you can say point guard, like they're supposed to be able to do certain things, but today's basketball is more positionless.
In this era, he would be the standard at the center position, not the point guard position.
Point center. He'd
Still be point center. I think with his mindset, whatever position, he's going to have the ball in his hand.
I would think
He's going to have the ball in his hand.
So you're saying he would come up to the high post and make moves and pass from the center position, or go to the low post, do moves and make passes from there that we had never seen before.
Yeah, that's what I think.
From up top.
Yeah, I don't think he would be coming down, playing high screen and roll, stepping behind, shooting a three, shaking you, and he wouldn't be doing all that. Now, what he would be doing as a center is when he's catching it, you saying, oh, what are we going to do now when he has it? Because now he can get to the basket, it's totally different than him coming down the floor, looking at that D Rose and everything. So that's what I mean, like the way offenses are played right now, he would be a totally different player in this era.
I appreciate you doing that, because the guy handling the beep button upstairs said, just not at all. Take it back to life. Are you intrigued by this? I mean, you just came off of playing in this current era. Right. Grant, are you intrigued by the possibility of seeing how your skill set translated to another time in the NBA?
As a fan, it would have been fun to play in the 80s. And first of all, I do agree that the 80s was the best era. And I think this current era is certainly entertaining, but I think because of the rule changes and the style of play, it is an easier era to play. I sometimes wish, I could be a little bit younger playing today. But I think I think you guys are all right. I think a couple of things. One, I think it's always hard to compare eras and players. Like I watched Wilt Chamberlain and some of the moves and the finger rolls he would do back in the '60s, and think, how would he fare against Shaq today? And as great and as dominating as he wasn't as dominant as Shaq. But you'd think that he would adapt if he came of age at the same time that Shaquille would, just like most players. So, there's sort of that angle. And then I think too,
But there would be no Shaq if there wasn't Wilt. Because Wilt showed you how to take it off, to dribble it off, play with the Globetrotters. So he showed Shaq a style that a big man had never seen. The skill set. So I agree that, but there are guys who are, I would say, trendsetters and rule makers, and until 80s guys, this is how I think they're great. There were rule changes because of them. Michael Jordan, there was an illegal offense because of him.
That was me.
And I say,
no. I'm just saying. That was Lambeer and I. That started
on one side of the floor and lifting everybody else. They said, that's illegal.
They say we got to change those.
They're too good. They're too good for that. So we're illegal.
What was the illegal offense? Is it because it's something to do with that double teaming rule where like you can't go over there and like help or whatever until they get the ball or something like that? Is it something?
They say we got to change those.
They're too good. They're too good for that. So we're illegal. Charles Barkley, the back down rule.
Him and Mark Jackson. Yep.
They were like, no, you're too good to have the ball more than 6 seconds back. So what guy are they changing rules about now?
I think a lot of that is the evolution of the coaching, too, and defenses have gotten so much better, and the schemes. I mean, when you watch a tape of the 80s, like the Lakers-Celtics in the finals, it looks like nobody's playing any defense to me. Like nobody's picking up full court. Guys are cutting through the lane.
Yeah, see Dennis Johnson going, guys?
No, he got after people, but I'm saying there was a lot more movement. There was less spacing, right? You had a lot more movement. But as an answer to that, Chuck Daly said, all right, we're going to start knocking people around. Pat Riley did. So now the game gets more physical. Then the rules change. I think the point is the game is always evolving. It's always changing.
When I look at Chicago, they're the team that's more similar to our Detroit Piston team than anybody right now.
Yes.
You know, built around Rose and Noah and everything. I look at the Chicago Bulls, their defense.
This was back in like maybe 2010, 2011. Okay, is what I'm
around Rose and Noah and everything. I look at the Chicago Bulls, their defensive mentality, their rebounding the basketball, their perimeter game. I look at the Bulls as the Detroit Pistons of the 80s.
And you said Memphis?
I think Memphis, the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yeah, Grizzlies too.
Pippen and Dennis Rodman, both 6'7", both weigh 210. Talking about they're going to stop somebody in today's game. Like,
nah.
6'7", 210, like you are a little guard in today's game. You guys are little guys. Like,
but that's every 10 years the game changes.
Yeah, that's what I said. They have no idea about evolution. It's like they don't take evolution.
I always have these debates with my friends. I was like, bro, can you imagine dropping LeBron in the 75? Like, just drop LeBron now that you know in 75. I was like, bro.
Yeah, that's just it's like they forget evolution. So they're like, well, this game's soft. They flop too much.
I think it's more skilled.
You have to understand rules, right? So if a player can get you in foul trouble because you're always out of place, that's a skill. And I said, it's not a flop, it's a skill. If I know I'm gonna drive here and I know your speed is gonna try to beat me there and I stop, you hit me and I shoot, that is my skill. That's what I'm skilled at. And I don't think anybody really appreciates the skill. They call it, oh, he's flopping too much. Oh, this is boring. Like, no, that's. But
you know what people, their react. First, in the 90s, they were averaging like 80, 90 points.
I will say sometimes the flopping is out of hand. Like, the flopping, it gets out of hand sometimes. When you see some of the flops that they get away with, it's frustrating. It's frustrating at times. Unless it's your team getting the calls. If it's your team getting the calls, good job, bro. If it's other teams flopping against, then it gets frustrating. It's like, come on, ref. Like, that's terrible. He's obviously flopping. But, I mean, you can't get guys in foul trouble that way, so I do understand where Gilbert Arenas is coming from.
But you know what people, their react. First, in the 90s, they were averaging like 80, 90 points a game. Like, we're doing 135s and 140s now, you know, and that's because of the skill level. So they didn't have to figure out how to get to the free throw line. It was like whenever we score. I think it was more of a stops game in the 90s anyway.
It was a big man game. Everyone wanted to play.
Yeah, but then the defensive rules are completely different. They're allowed to do a lot more on defense, and they're allowed to be a lot more physical on defense to stop offensive players. Now, don't get me wrong, the shooting in this generation is much better, I'd say. Just based off of spacing. There wasn't, not off of percentages, but off of the amount of shots taken, the percentage off the amount of shots taken from deeper ranges. And so the spacing, there's a lot more spacing, but also the defense was allowed to be very physical back in the 80s. And so it's harder to play defense now because so much rules against the defensive player.
I think it was more of a stops game in the 90s anyway.
It was a big man game. Everyone wanted to pull. Everyone, you had post-up guards. You got to remember, guards back then weren't scorers. You know,
except for Jordan.
I mean, but like point guards.
Right.
So, you're talking about Gary Payton, he was still considered a point guard. Back then, soon as AI comes in, it's like,
well, you know what's funny?
Throw him to the two. We don't know what that is. We don't know what that is yet.
Right.
You're talking about, Marbury averaging, 22 and 9. He was considered a ball hog.
Oh, wow.
Like 9 assists, he was a ball hog. The Stevie Francis, like that's what I said. So when I came in, I was a combo guard. I wasn't either.
Yeah.
It's just get out there and we're gonna see what he can do. And then from there, it just starts opening up. So it's like everybody became skillful. It wasn't just the shooting guard in the center. You know, so it's like, you know, back then your power forward was anywhere from 6'4" to 6'8". You know, so these guys talking about, oh, I'm gonna stop you, like that nobody even plays that dinosaur as basketball anymore. That position got removed because of Shaq. All these centers in college coming in, centers in high school, KGs, Van Horns are like, I'm not with him.
Right.
I'm gonna go to the 4-man, go against the guy who's 6'4". And then the 4-man became this long guy and it took away the center. So I said every position became skillful. So like when the 90s talking about, oh yeah, y'all soft, you know, we would've put y'all on your ass.
Yeah.
You're a little kid. Like we gain weight when we get older. These are 60, 70 years old, 185 pounds still. Like, come on, shut up. 185? Get out of here. Like I was afraid of you my rookie year. I don't know why. Like you're little, like John Stockton. You guys are little. Right. Like you guys you guys are defensive guys. Like it became a joke. Like it's like put the 2 guard on me, man. These point guards are just too little, and that's what people don't understand. Like evolution, I feel that. Like these guys are just too little. Like you're not gonna hurt us. Like,
but you know what? We're gonna do the same shit in 20 years.
Yeah, 20 years. Like, oh, yeah. You're right.
That's what happens. So guys, did this video change your opinion? If so, what do you think is the best era in NBA history now? So make sure you like, share, subscribe, and show love to the YG gang. And I'm out.
I think it just depends on what you like to see as a fan. You want to see more defense, the current era is not for you. You want to go maybe to the 80s, 90s era. You want to see more offense, the current era is going to be, you know what I'm saying? Do you want to see people shooting from a couple feet in front of half court? Or do you want to see players like attacking the basket? Or you want to see centers going crazy? Or you know what I'm saying? What do you want to see as a fan? It just depends on that. And whatever era everybody has as their favorite. No,